being self-aware, it's accepting and taking responsibility. And I think overall that is the biggest lesson, the biggest takeaway from my so far 41 years of life.
This is Journey to Point B, where you can find success stories of people who have achieved the same goals you're striving for. I'm your host, Lucia Csoma, and it's my hope that these stories will provide motivation for your own journey to Point B. Dr. Alex, thank you for coming on my show. It's an honor to have you here.
Thank you, Lucia. Thank you so much.
You were a nurse and you established a goal that was really big at that time. So I was wondering if you can take us back a little bit and tell us where you were and what is the goal that you have set for yourself.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so I've been in healthcare for over 22 years now. And when I first started out many years ago, I actually was a college dropout. I was a college dropout. And it took me some time to find myself after I graduated, and actually took about 2 years for me to figure out what field I wanted to get into. And I finally settled on the healthcare field. And so I started out as a nurse aide, an STNA, a CNA, goes by all different names. But I started out working in nursing homes doing long-term care. Then I did some home care and various other settings. And then once I did that for a few years, I decided to go for my LPN, to go for my licensed practical nurse. So I did that, worked a couple years. Then I decided to go for my associate's degree. So I got my associate's. Then I went and got my bachelor's degree. And then after that, I was like, I'm just going to go for it. And I went straight into a doctorate program. And so 4 years after that, I was able to call myself Dr. Rosa. So I had that whole journey. And throughout all that time, I was going to school full time, doing clinicals, residency, raising 3 kids. I have 3 children, in a relationship, living life. I was a caretaker for my father when he became very ill. So much of life happened during that time, but I had a goal in my head of what I wanted to do and who I wanted to be, of a future that I had for me and my family. And I stuck with that. And so now I'm here today.
Wonderful. Very nice journey. So I'm curious, Dr. Alex, what would you say was the motivation that drove you on this path?
I think by nature, I'm an overachiever. I can definitely call myself a person like that. And I always had a very high standard for myself. And I don't know who instilled that into me or where I got it from, because I'm the only person in my family to actually do this much education, to have a doctorate, to even be in the healthcare field. No one else in my family does this. And so I'm not really sure where I got the influence to do this and pursue this, but I always knew that I was always very driven, very motivated, very much an overachiever. And I also always had a need to help. I always had like that nurturing spirit and wanting to help and to provide. And nursing just fit that perfectly. And it's kind of evolved and changed over the years, but primarily that's how I got into that space and why I continued to stay there.
And as you embarked on this journey, what were some steps that you took? What was the moment when you felt that this is becoming a reality? This is happening.
I don't know if I ever really had a moment quite like that. I think I was always just so focused on knowing that I could complete the task. I could complete whatever thing that I had decided for myself, that I could do it. I could complete it. And even with my doctorate, so while I was getting my doctorate, that was right during the pandemic, and everything was going crazy. And that was a very challenging time. And so I could have quit. There were many times throughout the years where I could have quit and just settled. But I'm very much not a person who settles. And I think just that spirit inside of myself is what allowed me to continue to go on. And throughout the years going along, I really had to learn how to become self-reliant. I had to learn how to become very self-aware, very task-oriented, time management, focus, all of that. I had to be extremely disciplined. And there was really nobody to teach me discipline, really. Like you have your parents, but it's a different type of discipline when you start on an educational journey and when you're in your career. And then when you become a professional, it's a very different type of self-discipline, self-leadership that you have to develop because you're going to develop your own style, your own flavor. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's what I developed over the years for myself. And that's what I carried over into my private practice when I'm working with clients now.
What I hear is that first, your nature was the fire burning to go and
Mm-hmm.
to pursue this goal. But at the same time, you also realize that there are some things that you have to change. Like
Yeah.
you have to become self reliant and self motivated and disciplined and all that. What helped in becoming that? Because what I know is that even if we know what we need to do, if we know what we want to become or what we want, where are the areas where we want to grow into, it's not that easy to put it in practice.
Mm-hmm.
So what was something that supported
Mm-hmm.
you to put that into practice?
Yeah. So a lot of it was a portion of it. And even though I did say self-reliant, absolutely you must be self-reliant, but you can never do everything on your own. And so that was a big part of my development as well, was reaching out to others, delegation, all those tools that we need. That's what I had to start understanding and really utilizing, because I knew I couldn't do it on my own, even though in the end it was all on me. But I knew I needed help in certain areas too, because there's only one of me and I've got kids and
Mm-hmm.
work and
Mm-hmm.
everything. So it definitely took reaching out, having a support network for sure. But over the years, I had always been really interested in alternative medicine, complementary therapies. Even as a young person, I've been into yoga and meditation. I'd always been interested in those things. And I started noticing that I was going to have to put these things into practice, or they started to come up. The need for them started to come up over the years. With each level that I ascended to, I had to
Mm-hmm.
get more and more resources. I had to become more adept. I had to be more in tune, more precision with every level that I went up. And even now, with what I teach in my practice and when I'm working with women, I'm like, if you're at a higher level, then there's such a higher level of self care that is required once you get to these elevated levels. And so I really pulled and gravitated towards holistic wellness, because there were so many parts of me that were being exposed that I was needing to tap into, and I needed to find a way to support myself in all those ways. And so I just really started diving into holistic wellness and thinking about my spirituality and my emotional health. And along the way, I overcame one of my biggest obstacles was myself and my health. So throughout my throughout my journey, I had always been working in healthcare, and most people would have thought, oh, well, you know the consequences of behavior and health, and you would have thought that
Mm-hmm.
people in healthcare, but I see this all the time anyway. We really don't take care of ourselves in healthcare how we should. We take care of everybody else, but we always tend to put ourselves last. And that's exactly what I was doing. So my physical health was really suffering, my emotional health, everything. And so over the years and towards the last, I think, like 6 or 7 years when I was working and going to school still, I started to notice a pattern. I started to notice a framework that I kept applying to myself. And it addressed the areas of my spiritual health, my physical health, my insight and my self-awareness, my career, where I was going, why I was doing what I was doing, and my emotional
Mm-hmm.
health. And so I took all those letters and I created Spice. And so that's really the framework, my signature framework that I created. that I use now that I apply for myself. Like, I'm my best testimonial, my best success story is me, because I applied it and I used it in my life. And so that's what I teach others when I'm working with them. And the health was a huge part. And I know we don't have too much time to go into it, but I had really bad health issues that needed to be addressed. And that's really where spice really saved my life.
So you developed spice from your personal need. Like as you were working on yourself, you discovered this methodology that now is helping your clients.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And throughout the journey, from your nursing job to becoming a doctor, what would you say was your biggest challenge or one of your biggest challenges?
Yeah, my biggest challenge. So I've always been close with my father, always, and he's not here with us anymore. However, when he was my biggest cheerleader for sure. But when I first started working, when I had just started my LPN program, my kids, I only had two kids at that time. They were 3 and 1. And my dad had a massive heart attack and a stroke. And he was living with somebody else, not my mother. He had remarried. And so he was living with her, and he ended up surviving. He went to a physical rehab place, came back home, and then shortly after that, she ended up divorcing him. She ended up leaving him, and he had no place to go. So he ended up coming to live with me. And so here I am, like 20 some years old, barely knowing what to do with my life. And then here comes my father, who is very ill, and I had to become his caregiver. I'm taking care of my kids. I'm working. I'm in school. I'm trying to be a wife and a mom, all the things. And really, truly, I could have just quit then. I totally could have quit, and nobody would have faulted me, right, for quitting. Nobody would have said, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
Because of that extreme of a situation. But I had that goal again, and I knew I needed to keep going. So, in taking care of my dad, he had very advanced type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, obviously with the heart attack and the stroke. He was overweight, a smoker, all the things that you can imagine. And he never really took care of himself. And so he ended up having another heart attack and a stroke. However, this time he ended up getting a clot in his brain. He ended up becoming brain dead, on life support, and then we had to take him off of life support. So again, another moment where I could have totally stopped. Nobody would have faulted me. Every reason in the world to take a break. But I didn't. I kept going, and I was able to successfully continue the course, pass. I actually was the class president and continued going on to finish out that, then get my associates, and then continue on with all the other degrees to where I am today. And that literally was the hardest thing that has ever happened to me. But again, when you know deep down why you're doing something and you put your all into it, there's nothing that can stop you.
Thank you for sharing that. And I'm so sorry for your
Yeah,
father.
thank you.
What would you say was your why?
Myself, actually. Myself. I think so often I always say women because most of my work revolves around women, but I think so often we're doing things for other people, for awards, for likes, for clicks, for promotion, certificate, you name it. But deep down, we should be doing things for ourselves. We really do. We need to do things for ourselves that make ourselves happy, and not do it for anybody else. Because just like we put if we're doing something for somebody else, the why. I'm doing it for so and so. I'm doing it for my kids. I'm doing it for whoever. That's not enough of a reason to keep going. It really isn't. It needs to be inside of you, ingrained in you. Because if we don't succeed, then we just blame it on somebody else. We have a reason to blame it on somebody else. We find a scapegoat, we find an excuse. But if you put that why on yourself, it's truly self-ownership then. and you can totally celebrate when it's you and when you accomplish it. So I have no problem saying it's because of me, because I want to, nobody else.
Yes. And I'm learning more about the power of putting yourself first. It's like
Mm-hmm.
when we are on a plane and we need to put our oxygen mask first.
Yeah.
Why? Because if we do not put that oxygen mask first, no matter how much we would like to be the light for somebody, support somebody, if we do not take care of ourselves first, we
Mm-hmm.
cannot take care of anybody else. So it's not
Yeah.
selfish, it's smart to take care of yourself first, and then
Mm-hmm.
with what happens, the results, the wonderful results of taking care of yourself, then you are more equipped, you're more capable to help others as well. Thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, Dr. Alex, what would you say were some of the lessons that you learned? Maybe give us 2, 3 lessons that you learned on this journey, lessons that stayed with you.
Yes. One of them was that I realized that I had lived many years of my life in victimhood, um, thinking that I was the victim or playing the victim. I spent so, and but I had never had anybody point that out to me ever. I didn't realize it until I started um, really learning and diving into personal development and learning about those different personalities and those traits and those thought patterns, the mindset. I didn't realize that I was living in a victim state of mind for so much of my life.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that's kind of what had led to my health problems and my weight, was being stuck in that story. So becoming self-aware and having so much insight, again, the eye of spice, insight, that self-awareness, that was the very first place that I did so much work in, and the most powerful place that I did work in. And so insight, becoming self-aware, accepting responsibility, I say that's the most important lesson that I've ever learned and that I continue to focus on. I'm always practicing, I'm always implementing, I'm always doing this type of work every day on myself, always. And every day I learn something new about myself,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just
Mm-hmm.
being self-aware, it's accepting and taking responsibility. And I think overall that is the biggest lesson, the biggest takeaway from my so far 41 years of life is that.
Yeah, arriving at that maturity to realize
Mm-hmm.
that we're responsible for our life.
Mm-hmm.
We need to take the
Yeah.
steps. It's on us, it's on not on anybody else, and being aware of that, and then taking the action of owning our life, the action that would
Yeah.
improve our lives. That's key. If
Mm-hmm.
someone from the listeners would embark on the same journey that you embarked a few years ago when you set this big goal,
Uh-huh.
what would be some words of wisdoms that you would share with them?
I have a couple things I want
Mm-hmm.
to say, because I actually love teaching about this. So I also teach at a university. So I teach nursing students, and I teach every single student that I have about entrepreneurship. They don't teach you any of that while you're going through your classes or your programs. And I think many professionals in healthcare don't realize how much of an asset they are, how much they know, how much experience that they have, and how much that they can bring to other people's lives in their own way, with
Mm-hmm.
just like with what I do. And so I always teach and talk about entrepreneurship. And I think it's always important to never put, like that saying goes, don't put your eggs all in one basket, always
Mm-hmm.
diversify. So
Mm-hmm.
you have to have your own thing, your own business, your own side hustle, whatever you want to call it. We all know what we're talking about. You have to have your own thing that you can be in love with, that you can um, express yourself through, that you enjoy doing, that can support you a little bit financially as well. Because as we learned through the pandemic and through so many other situations, I've experienced this personally over the many years that I've been working. You know, there's no safe place. There's no 100% that you're always going to have a job no matter what career you're in. And so just knowing that you have something to fall back on that is yours, I think is so valuable. So I always teach about entrepreneurship and doing something that's for yourself. And even if it's not in healthcare related, it could be something totally different. Just if it brings you joy and it allows you to express yourself, and it's something that because again, I always like the holistic thing. And I'm like, whatever brings you joy and happiness, we need more of that in our lives. It's the best medicine. So why not? Why not bring that into your life? So that's one aspect of it. And then I would say, don't don't feel like you have to follow a traditional career path or a traditional work environment. I think many times when people go into healthcare, they always feel like they need to work in a hospital or they need to work in a doctor's office. Or work in a nursing home. There's so many other areas where healthcare providers are needed, so many different types of settings, schedules. I did travel nursing for years and years, which allowed me great flexibility. And I learned so many great skills and people. There's so many different things that you can do with your degree, with your license, with your education, with your experience. So much you can do. And you can always find something that's going to work to your lifestyle. And when I'm working with clients, I also have like part of my practice is not just health, it's a lot of life coaching as well. And so I get a lot of women who are kind of unsure about their career paths for whatever reason. And it's like, what kind of life do you want to lead? What type of lifestyle do you see yourself having? What kind of schedule? And really getting into that and then finding a career that can accommodate that as closely as possible, because I've always been able to flex my schedule, flex my time. I've always found different things that would suit the season of my life, right? Because I've got an 18, 16, and 6-year-old. So my my life and all the experience have always been changing. So I've had to adjust my working times, my areas, what I've been doing to accommodate and flex with that. And I think that's what's amazing about healthcare, because there are so many opportunities, but I don't want people to feel stuck in, I've just got to stay like this, because you absolutely don't. So much out there. And LinkedIn is such a great resource for meeting all types of people that do all different types of jobs in healthcare that can give you some really great ideas, that will be willing to talk with you and give you, I'm willing to, if you need help. I've done it many times before. There's so many avenues that you can get into. And so if it's in you and you really want to do it, you'll find a way to make it happen. Absolutely.
Thank you for sharing this. What is one goal that you're working towards these days?
Ooh, okay, it's a big one. It's a big one. So currently, my practice is all telehealth, telemedicine. I see all my clients virtually right now. However, I'm at a season in my life where my oldest has just went away to college. And so I have my two younger kids. I have my 16 and my 6-year-old. And I have a big vision for me and my family. I would love to move. So I'm currently in Ohio. And so I would love to move. I don't even have a place, right? I don't have a place yet, but the vision is that I would love to open a wellness center. So I would love to have an actual physical place where it's a combo, though. I want half of it to be a home for me, for my family, for my grandchildren. I want it to be a home. But then the other part, I really would love to have it as a wellness center. So a place where patients can come and have a really transformative experience there, where they can heal. We can hold classes. I can have my podcasting and live streaming studio there so I can record, a beautiful kitchen, just a beautiful like retreat type wellness center, and have land and animals and do all the different types of therapies, the medicinal gardens, everything. That's the bigger vision that I have for myself. That's the bigger goal. So that's what I'm working towards. And I'm hoping to get it within the next 5 years. That's what I kind of have laid out for myself. And that's really what I'm looking to level up to. So that's my big goal right now.
I wish you all the best on
Oh,
that
thank
goal.
you.
And I cannot wait to have you back and share how you accomplish
Thank
that
you.
goal.
Oh my
And
gosh, girl. Ooh, they gave me butterflies.
so, Dr. Alex, what would be the best way for someone that is interested more in your work, would like to get in contact with you? What would be the best way for them to do so?
Sure. So I'm all over all the social media channels, but I primarily hang out on Facebook and LinkedIn. So you can simply look up at Dr. Alex Rosa, DrAlexRosa, and you'll be able to find me there. And I love it when people send me messages. And what I always tell people is send me a message and say, hey, I saw you on that podcast and I loved when you talked about this. And that's the best way to just start a conversation. People get so nervous. And I'm like, just tell me where you saw me and what you liked about it. We can go from
Mm-hmm.
there. So I love that. I just love getting direct messages. That's the best way to get a hold of me. Yeah, and I'm very active on there. I'm always live streaming or making videos. And so that's the best place to find me, LinkedIn or Facebook.
Wonderful. And I will have that information in the show notes as
Okay,
well.
good.
Thank you so much, Dr. Alex, for
Thank
walking
you.
us on your journey to point B. I think this can be an inspiration for other people that are trying to start their own journey, maybe reaching the same
Mhm.
goals as you. And I appreciate and honor the time that you took to share this with us. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad you found it valuable enough to invite me. So thank you.
Thank you. I hope this episode gave you some inspiration for reaching your goals. If you found it useful, please hit the subscribe button. This will help me bring you more inspirational stories to support your own journey to point B. Thank you.